From this to this. In this video, we'll show you step by step how to make your very own Wonder Woman braces from foam. It's so simple, even a beginner cosplayer can do it. Hi, Tracy here from Astrocyte Cosplay. Today we'll be following my build of my Wonder Woman foam braces using the template purchased from StassKlass. This is part of my Wonder Woman Cosplay series to help you make your own Wonder Woman cosplay. So let's get into it. Step 1 is to cut out the pattern. This template was purchased from StassKlass. I'll put a link in the description below. I like to purchase my templates because I have a full-time job and a young family, so don't really have the time to test out and make my own patterns, and it's nice to support other cosplayers. It's a good idea to try the fit of the pattern on yourself to make sure it is going to fit. Step 2 is to trace the pattern onto foam. Here I'm just using a normal pen, but I've seen others use silver Sharpie, that type of thing. The choice is up to you. I'm just tracing this onto 5mm EVA foam, then going over the details of the pattern. This leaves a bit of an indent into the foam, and you can see this when you take the pattern off. We're just going over this detail a little bit more so it's a bit easier to etch in later. Now to cut out the bracer. Make sure you always keep your knife nice and sharp. It gives much cleaner lines. I'm just using a box cutter here, but you can use an X-Acto knife. The choice is yours. So here we're just etching in the detail into the foam. Be careful with how deep you go on this. The first one I did cut it too deep, and because you heat shape it and put it around your arm, it did look terrible. Learn from my mistakes. Step 3 is to add some battle damage. So I looked at a reference photo and just added in some random lines that I wanted to have battle damage on. Here I'm using a rotary tool to carve these in. On my second bracer I actually just used the X-Acto knife. And I found that was a much cleaner cut. So if you don't have a rotary tool, yeah, just feel free to just use your X-Acto knife. I would probably do this going forward. So step 4 is to seal and heat shape. So I'm just using a heat gun here to heat up the foam. This has a multiple benefit of closing the pores in the foam ready for painting, as well as allowing it to be pliable enough so that when you wrap it and hold it to the shape that you're after, in this case a bracer, that when it cools, it will actually stay that shape. So it's always a good idea to keep trying on your armor as you're going, just to make sure you're happy with the fit before you get too far along in your project. And I'm pretty happy with how this is looking so far. So step 5 is priming. We need to prime our foam so that it's able to take paint and the paint just doesn't soak into the foam. Here I'm using a product called Flexbond that I've purchased from Lumen's workshop, but you can use Plasti Dip just depending on what's in your area. I'm just watering down the Flexbond so that it can go on in thin layers and doesn't leave as many brush strokes. Make sure you do thin layers. I think I ended up doing about 3 layers and making sure it dries in between each layer. So here I'm just taking a little bit of the Flexbond out of the cracks and crevices so that I don't lose any of the detail that's in the bracer. Question for cosplayers. If you could have one of Wonder Woman's superpowers, what would it be? Leave a comment below. So step 6 is painting. Now this is when it really starts to come alive. Here I'm just using a base coat of a black acrylic paint. This just gives a bit more of an even black coating on it, even though your foam may be black, but you might be using grey foam or something else like that. So just water it down a little bit. This does help with the brush lines as well. So next it's on to the silver acrylic paint. Nothing flash with the types of paint that I'm using, just standard acrylic paints. Here I'm just brushing on with a sponge. So I wanted sort of like a brushed metal sort of look to it. So this was the method that I came up with to try and get that brush look. So after that, because it's a very light sort of silver color, I've just gone over it with a brush, just to give that a little bit more of a vibrant silver. You may need to do a few coats of this to get the desired color that you're after. Try to avoid the cracks and the detail that's in your bracer, because you will lose it. So next it's on to the gold acrylic paint for the bottom and the top part of the bracer. I just used reference photos to get an idea of where the gold needed to be. Always make sure you're checking your reference photos so you don't make an oops. Now I'm just using a toothpick here to get some of the gold paint out of the detail. We will do a black wash later on to bring some of that back, but it does make it easier if you can try and avoid some of it. So this will be light on your first coat. I did have to do several coats, I think about 3 to really bring out the vibrant gold. As you can see here, it's looking much more gold now. So here, this is where we're going to do our black wash. So I've just put a little bit of acrylic paint into some water. Mix that up. So here we're just going to put it on, mainly focusing on all the detailed sections, the cracks and that. It doesn't need to be neat, obviously. Just do it on, leave it on for a little while, and then you're just going to get some paper towel and start rubbing it off. So we're hoping that the black paint just sort of stays in the little cracks and crevices and gives it a little bit more of a weathered look and brings back the detail. Step 7, we're going to do a clear coat over our paint job. I use this Mod Podge Gloss acrylic sealer. Using an acrylic sealer will make sure that it stays flexible and doesn't crack our paint. I just do 2 light coats of this to avoid drips. Step 5 is adding the straps. So with the paint job out of the way, it's time to add some strapping, and this adds a lot more detail to it, just using the reference photos from the Wonder Woman movie. So we're going to do this on the second bracer. Now you will need some leather belt, some split pins, hot glue and some Velcro. I just got the leather straps from an op shop in Australia, thrift store where you may be. So we're just checking the sizing, making sure it's going to fit and cutting it to size. So if you don't want to add something as complicated as the leather strapping, or if you just want an easy option, you could always just use elastic or use some Velcro on the inside of the bracer. It's totally up to you. Here we're just adding the triangle shaping to the end of each piece of the leather straps. So we're going to be using 4 split pins here, just gold in colour, very, very cheap. I always just keep a collection of split pins or snap buttons around for different various projects. So we're just going to add a couple of extra holes in with a leather punch. to put the split pin through. So we're just going to bend one of the split pins over on the back of the strapping, but leave the other one out, as we're actually going to pierce that through our foam piece. So I've just done some marking so I know roughly where it needs to go. So here you're just going to push the split pin through the foam. It will go through very easily, as you'll see here. And then you can just open up the split pin and have that on the other side. So this is where we're going to use our Velcro to stick down the leather strap to the other side. So you just want to measure it out so that you get the right sizing but without it showing. And I'm just cutting it in half here as it's too thick for the leather strapping that I was using. So using a hot glue gun, we're going to stick down, I've just made these 2mm foam pieces just to go over the back of the split pin and try and reinforce it. So just be careful with the hot glue. Obviously it is hot glue, so it is hot, and you can easily burn yourself. So just do that on both split pins on the inside. So next we're going to add some Velcro. Now these do come with a sticky backing, but I do find that they don't really stick enough, so I'm using a bit of hot glue here. So editing me says, be careful of this, you may want to actually use super glue, as mine have already started to come off and the hot glue hasn't quite kept them on. So you may want to try some super glue and even give it a bit of a sand and roughen up the surface to try and reinforce it. I'm going to try and do this, redo this on mine. And we're done. So just try not to stick that down too quick before that hot glue has had a chance to dry. So now the leather straps are attached, we're going to weather them up a little bit with some sandpaper. They are looking a little bit too new for the rest of the styler bracer. So just scratching up both the split pins and the leather strapping to give it a little bit more weathered look. This was all I did to the straps at this point in time. I may end up painting them or darkening them a little bit with some brown acrylic or black acrylic. And our Wonder Woman braces are done. Now you know how to make your very own Wonder Woman braces. Make sure you check out the tutorial for the Wonder Woman tiara by clicking on the link. If you found this tutorial helpful and would like to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video, and remember to keep having fun doing the things you love. Bye.